I suppose I almost should start this with an apology because I haven't read those documents, and what I'm going to show you is something that is in really where I started with this blended learning. And as it says here, blended learning in a summer school unit. Just to tell you a little bit about the unit, this is stuff that I did for a unit called Mathematics for Engineers 2, which is the second of two core mathematics units that all engineering students have to do. It's really a skills-based course. It's got quite a heavy content in it. We previously have offered it in autumn and spring, and just the last one, it has a really high failure rate, as do most of our Maths for Engineers units. So, why summer school when we offer it both semesters? Well, summer school, we introduced a unit because people were coming in with poor maths skills. We introduced a preliminary unit, and so that students could actually be on track by the start of year 2, we introduced, trialled for the first time 2 years ago, Mathematics for Engineers 2 at summer school. So, why the use of online material? It wasn't because I was saying, oh, you know, blended learning, I'm going to do this sort of stuff. It was really out of necessity that I had to condense a 13-week course with high content into 6 weeks of summer school, where we had limited time for the students to sort of work through the maths and take time to learn the skills, etc. So I needed to have the same content and the same assessment structure in the summer school unit to give validity to it. I couldn't simplify it or anything like that. And so, you know, blended learning stuff online didn't come easy. I have technical difficulties, I have technical limitations, and so I set about trying to work out what sort of things, what did I need to say to the students in terms of getting content across to them? How could I get this online? You know, mathematics is one of those really hard things to get online because it's not just like typing up a document and this sort of stuff. There's lots of other things that you have to look at in presenting a mathematics unit. I mean, in our school itself, some people have, one lecturer in particular is working with the staff from ME Excellence, and it's producing a totally online unit, and it's fabulous. Really high-tech, lots of good videos, lots of interaction stuff on a website. This is not that, okay? I make apologies. I haven't changed from where I started 2 years ago, just to say you don't need a lot of resources to start things, and just what we can do, that you don't need to buy fancy programs and this sort of stuff. So the first thing was, how do I get the message to students about what they've got to do before they come? Because that was the big thing with summer school. I didn't have any time, there was no orientation, can't afford to take off the first lecture to explain what the course was about. So I emailed all students, just download your list from Callista or something and send out a general email. Welcome to the unit, saying when it starts, what their responsibility is, and all this sort of stuff. So that was a general email, first of all, to really set the scene that for summer school in particular, now I mean these days I could use Twitter or Facebook or something like this, but you know, at this stage when I did this, as I said, very limited sort of resources, etc. I then wanted to say to students, this structure of this unit is a little bit different. So getting across all that information, I don't know if you're like me, the first lecture you do is usually spent time, you know, making sure they know where the view site is, making sure they read the learning guide, making sure they know what the assessment is and this sort of stuff. Summer school, you don't have that luxury. And so I made up a PowerPoint presentation. And as I said, I have limited technical skills, I have limited, you know, graphic design type skills and limited resources. So I sat in my lounge room at home with my stereo system and my record playing and sat and talked myself through a PowerPoint presentation. So set up the slides, talk to the slides, but then I discovered there's free programs out there. Something like iSpring Free was one that I first used and made it into a little movie. And so this was to tell the students who I was, what they had to do for the unit, and what their responsibilities were really in the unit. So I could save all that time at the beginning of the course. So just to show you, and of course it doesn't work when you want it to work. Okay. I tested it before and it worked. Yeah. Technical difficulties? Well, okay, it's a PowerPoint presentation and music behind it. Summer school, I said to the students they could get a bonus if they could tell me what the song was and who sang it and where it came from. And the song was We're All Going on a Summer Holiday by Cliff Richard. Now, one student in the class, they all looked at me as if to say, who? What? What are you talking about? But just a light-hearted introduction. So it starts with a beach scene, has the music playing and fades out to say, stop dreaming, we're doing Maths for Engineers 2, beach comes later. So a little bit of light thing. It's okay. You sure? Yeah. No.
One more try. Do you mind ad-libbing for a moment?
No. So.
Okay.
We tried it at the start and it worked.
I know it's gone all black.
No, it was black to start with.
Okay.
With what Lynn's talking about, who's doing a similar thing in their unit? They're just taking their
Can I just close
PowerPoint
it down
slides
and open it back up?
Yeah, you
Try
can do.
that.
little movies or doing voiceovers. Oh,
Yeah, so it does work fine on views, and so I turned the PowerPoint into, iSpring turns it into a movie, so it's an, MV or something format. I have since used a program called Camtasia, which I can change everything into an MP4 format, which is much easier and much more user-friendly to use, and so that's what's on the Views site, and that's what they see now. But just to say, there are, if you don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Sorry.
Yeah, if you don't have access to, if your school's a bit short of money like ours and, don't want to buy programs, etc., there are ways around it. So that gave the students the setup of, what to look for. They knew what to do, so they had to listen. Then I outlined in the PowerPoint presentation, they actually had to listen to a pre-recorded lecture before they came, because in the summer school timetable I didn't have enough time to do. Our normal structure is 3 lecture hours and 1 shoot hour a week. I didn't have the luxury of 3 lecture hours, and so I looked at the notes, cut it down to a 35-40 minute presentation. And how do you do a lecture? Well, I booked out a lecture theatre this time of year for 2 weeks and stood and talked to myself and lectured to myself and used the lectures online and got them to record the lectures. I then downloaded them. If you do use lectures online, don't just leave it to the lectures online people to store your stuff. Download a copy of it, keep it. They're valuable resources. And so I did this 2 years ago, and I've used the same lecture now. I'm about to use it for the 3rd time, and now I'll probably update it a bit and change it around. But quite an interesting experience talking to yourself in a lecture theatre. But it was a way of getting that material to the students, and of course it's not going to work, but that's okay. So they had to listen to this before they came. We then had 1 hour of a lecture tutorial time where I used directed questioning and say, the unit for non-technical Mathematics for Engineers 2 is a thing about things called differential equations. So I'd say things like, what's a differential equation? What do the letters ODE stand for? What does a first order differential equation look like? So I had a series of half a dozen directed questions that really made it important to say, you've got to listen to this lecture before you come, because I'm not going to repeat it. And then we did some more examples. So I worked through examples with them, and then they went to a 2-hour tutorial and sat down and did it themselves. So that was basically what I did for this unit. And then the last thing, probably not going to work as well, students had other questions, frequently asked questions, or how do I do this? Or for mathematics, they just want solutions to things. And just seeing it written out on a piece of paper, they go, oh yeah, I understand that. But it doesn't translate to them being able to learn those skills and go on and repeat it for other subjects. So I did produce a couple of tutorials using this program called Camtasia. I'm not sure, some of you are probably familiar with using Camtasia. It's a program that just records really what's on your screen. And you can either talk at the same time and record voiceover, or else these ones, I had an earlier edition of Camtasia when I first started this, and so I'd set up again what's called your storyboard, and then I put the audio to it, and you produce a little video in MP4 format, which you can then use. So just, nope, it's gone to the end of the slideshow. So it looks like, for some reason, no. Okay, I was going to give you a maths lesson.
No, that's still useful. We're just going to call IT to come and give us a hand.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go on.
Okay, I actually love that because that's what happens to me, so I'm
Yeah.
with you. So, does anybody in this room know why that's happened? Because, I mean, I know you put your little clip
When
in
I
the same folder.
when I came into the room, Lene said, do you want to check your presentation? And I said, yes. I clicked on one of these black boxes and up come the picture I want.
Okay.
Yes.
So what's going wrong?
Yes.
Could be also which applications that VLC or which tool or which program that they use.
Right.
But if it was already working when you came in, then something else has gone wrong.
Well,
Yes.
we're going to get IT to come and give us a hand.
Yeah,
And they'll answer the question.
I'm just interested.
That's a good question.
Did you change login? Is it under?
No.
Because if you've used log on has
Timed out. No. This isn't through views, is it? No.
No, it's not.
No.
Yeah.
This probably isn't because I haven't it's a summer unit, so I haven't prepared that unit
And
yet.
then you hadn't even logged into use.
No.
Still, the first thing that IT will do will close it down.
And start again. Have you restarted? Isn't that the first thing you do?
You'll lose 10 minutes.
That's right. So, I mean, this, to me, illustrates some of the difficulties that you do have. I haven't, I've had some of the problems with uploading some of the things onto views with different students being able to access stuff. So I think that's something we've really got to be mindful of when we do more online stuff, is its accessibility. It has to, the students will get frustrated with this. You were being very polite. Students would get frustrated if this happened when they were supposed to be trying to view something and that. But, I mean, they're nothing special. What I've done, just to show you that this concept of introducing blended learning into your units, we can do it really professionally, and I'm about to start looking at these things and tidy them up a bit and all this sort of stuff. I mean, the sound needs, work to it. When I was doing the recording of the music, I have older age children. And one of them, I was sitting in my lounge, and once you got a phone call, you have to stop that slide and start again on that one and redo it. When I was playing the music, one of my older children came out and said, if I hear that song one more time, that record is going out the window. And she didn't appreciate listening to Cliff Richard while she was trying to sleep in. But so I sat at home and did it on my lounge room floor, just simply doing it. So you can start at that sort of level, and I would encourage you to look at doing that sort of thing. That, we can learn from each other, and there's people with really good technical skills that we can learn ideas from, even setting up a PowerPoint to make it look more than just a blank slide that comes across the screen, embedding pictures in it, embedding movies when they work, that sort of thing, are things we need to be looking at. And I think even more this is for a summer school unit, but I'm looking at trialling this in autumn semester next year for a full cohort, Why? Because we're facing huge financial cutbacks in our school. The university is marching towards a tri-semester, isn't it? We're going to be having to look at these sorts of ways of presenting our material. Unless we want to cut down heaps on our content, we really are going to have to look at other ways of presenting stuff. Yeah. So, yes?
When you're producing, have you found different quality as far as your speech with a headset versus non-headset?
Yes. And I found the first time I did it with just using the voice narration with PowerPoint and trying to put it together there, uploading it into certain environments, my speech went very slow and it sounded like I had a bit of a lisp and at times, and so things like that I need to fix up. I know there's others in our school that are doing great things with those sorts of things. Graham Salter is an example of one who's done great things with blended learning things. But it's trial and error. But just want to encourage you, there are simple ways you can start, so don't be afraid of starting. Yeah.
Teaching physics is similar to teaching maths. I can appreciate a lot of things, but you open up by saying you're teaching engineering maths to basically students who haven't succeeded before. My question is, you can lead a horse to water, but how the hell do you make it drink?
Yep.
My experience with students is you put a lot of effort into something online, and the students that take advantage of it do really well. But there are those out there, you can see in the tracking logs, looking twice during the semester.
Yeah.
How do we engage them? And does doing this online, has it improved pass rates, or is it the opposite? If it goes too much online, do your pass rates go down?
That's why I would like to trial this format in an actual mainstream semester. When I did it in summer school, I had really good feedback from students. The attendance rate was incredible. I mean, just for instance, this unit in spring semester just finished had an enrolment of about 180 students. The last lecture had 6 students sitting in the room. Now that tells you something about the attendance rate. Summer school, we maintained 80 to 90% attendance rate. They really were very positive to the things, student feedback, things like it was great to have that, short summary really of what the topic was about. We introduced in the 30 to 40 minute lecture recording, introduced the language we're going to use, the sort of 1 or 2 simple examples to lead them into it. And they said it was really good to read that beforehand, come to the lecture, work through the questions themselves, and then go back and look at it again. And so there was positive feedback. Just to give you an idea, normal failure rates for this unit around the 40-45% rate. I'm always filling in those forms. This unit for summer school, 25% failure rate. Was it the blended learning, or was it the fact they turned up? I reckon it could be the fact they turned up, but I'd like to trial that out into seeing what difference it makes in a normal semester. Yeah.
I wonder whether it helped to have that 6-week intensive course.
They don't have other distractions. And
stretches over a semester, they think, oh, I can probably write a semester.
Yeah.
Whereas here they know it's very short, intense, yeah, I can do that, and they do it.
That's right. Hate to admit it, but it could be an argument for shortening our semesters and going to tri-semesters, but I'm not saying that. But, providing with other resources that they can use in their time frame, I think is important, and we've got to look more at that because they're not coming onto campus normally. Yep.
Can you talk a little bit about the actual mechanics of what you've done? So you suggested you've done, say, a 30 to 40 minute lecture, but I'm assuming there's not just one enormous audio file and video file.
No.
So
Yeah.
Can you explain how you broke it down?
So I divided the unit into 12 sessions or modules. So each module had a recorded lecture, the 30 to 40 minutes. It had a set of questions that I would work through and talk through and explain and get feedback and this sort of stuff. And then they had their own questions to work through. So the unit was divided into 12 modules, and each module had those 3 content. In the PowerPoint presentation, I set up originally, before we went to the new views, you could have your choice of little icons. So on the view site, they had a listen with headphones, they had a read sort of thing, and they had a do folder. And so each module was set up like this, so they knew what to do in those three things. Yeah.
Question about Camtasia. What's the deal with the license university level?
That's a very good question.
I did hear that you can download Snagit from the non-advertised programs. I haven't done it myself, but a fellow explained that you can actually do screen recording from within Snagit. But
Yeah.
Camtasia isn't. There is another one, Adobe Captivate, which you can
Yeah.
do, but Camtasia's...
And there is also another one, Articulate, as well.
Captivate as in CAP.
Yeah. So if you use something free like iSpring, which takes a PowerPoint presentation and just turns it into a movie, that's basically what it does. And I found the audio sound a little bit out of sync with that one. Articulate, it's one you have to purchase, but you can with Articulate, you know, do nice contents pages down the side. So you click on that if you want to bypass certain things in the presentation and just go. Camtasia, you can also set up a contents sub-menu that can jump to any part of the video you like, etc. I mean, when you see a professional video produced with Camtasia, it's really good, and but it does take a while. The online tutorial things that I did for students, just to give you an idea, went for about 5 minutes. It actually took me 8 hours to produce that 5 minutes of Camtasia so that everything was lined up. Again, inputting mathematics onto your screen is not an easy thing to do. So the only way I could work out to do it, as I said, in my limited technical abilities, was to actually type everything up and use the clipboard. And so put everything onto the clipboard, and I could bring a line across at a time, because try doing much mathematical formulas for those involved in the sciences using a PowerPoint slide. You just cannot get enough maths formula onto that one slide to make it viable. You know, for other subjects that aren't technically based like that, yeah, sure, you perhaps can do a lot more with PowerPoint. But as I said, it was a real trial and error, but it's something you can do, and just very simple sort of beginning, sitting in my lounge room floor, playing around with this.
Just to hint, if you've got a number of lines of maths, what I do is you type it up as a single PowerPoint content thing, and then when it's in the PowerPoint, that's the thing you copy on the slide, and then progressively delete and rearrange back together.
Yeah.
It's quicker than cutting and pasting from outside in the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
And if you're clever at doing your copy and paste and it looks a bit messy and things are on top, if you animate it first, the animation stays with the order.
Yeah, earlier versions with PowerPoint, I was having trouble getting maths formulas in the right space because the spacings, if you imported an object, it sat on top of your words and all this sort of stuff. So, yes.
We have time for one more quick question. Lauren?
I've seen some nice videos where it's handwritten formulas and that, other videos where they've obviously used the tablet.
Yeah, I'm experimenting with that at the moment because I'm in the School of Computing, and they actually provide with quite a lot of good support for us. So I actually have a tablet PC at the moment, which is my next step. I'm experimenting with that sort of thing. There was a bit of a time lag. There was a click, click, click on the screen, so I've got to work out which is the best recording to use and things like that. But as I said, what actually is here was my first attempt, just to show you the roughness of it, where you can actually start with it, and I am going to titter them up a bit and that, but you can do it.